The world wants you to stay lonely. Why? Because lonely people buy more stuff, scroll more ads, and don't challenge systems. But every time you ask for help, every time you show up for an unnecessary ritual, every time you tell the truth about your life, you're committing an act of rebellion against a culture that is thrilled to keep you isolated. Welcome to the Kindness Extremist Podcast. I'm your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa. I've spoken to tens of thousands of people all over the world about the importance of kindness. And I am obsessed with how we can bring more kindness into our daily lives and restore balance to a deeply unbalanced world. Every episode, I'll give you 3 practical strategies to create a kinder world, and I'll do it in 30 minutes or less. No fluff, just valuable, actionable content that you can implement in your life immediately after listening to help you actively create a kinder world. There's no time to waste. Let's dive in. What's up, my friend? Welcome back to episode 46 of the Kindness Extremist Podcast. I'm your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa. And I know that we're dropping this episode during Valentine's Day week, which might seem a little unkind, but I swear that is not my intention. Here we are in the middle of all this forced romantic happiness, and I'm talking about loneliness. But actually, there's no better time to have this conversation. Because while everyone will be posting their couples photos and relationship highlights later on this week, millions of people are feeling more isolated than ever. And to be painfully clear, this episode is going to go way deeper than talk about romantic love. Yes, today we're going to talk about something that's as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day: loneliness. Yeah, you heard that right. The former U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, declared that loneliness was a public health epidemic, and the statistics are staggering. About half of adults in America report feeling lonely regularly. Half, y'all! That means if you're sitting in a room with another person right now, statistically speaking, one of you is drowning in isolation. And during Valentine's week, those feelings get amplified by 1,000. But here's what drives me nuts about how we talk about loneliness. Everyone's offering the same tired solutions. Join a club, they say, or get a hobby, or put yourself out there, as if lonely people haven't thought of that stuff already. As if the solution to a complex social epidemic is as simple as signing up for a pottery class. Real talk, I know loneliness intimately, and I'm not talking about being alone, which can be beautiful and restorative. I'm talking about that soul-crushing feeling of being surrounded by people, but feeling completely unseen, unheard, and unknown. Let me take you back to one of the darkest periods of my life. It was 2018, and on paper, everything looked great. I had just published my second book, Go Together, my speaking career was taking off, and I had thousands of social media followers cheering me on. Behind closed doors, I was dying inside. I remember sitting at a pre-conference dinner with some of the meeting organizers, and even though I was surrounded by 8 other people who were laughing and connecting, I felt like I was watching the whole thing through bulletproof glass. They were right there, but I couldn't reach them. I excused myself to go to the bathroom and just sat in the stall for 20 minutes, scrolling through my phone, looking at pictures of other people's friendships and feeling like I was the only person on earth who didn't know how to do this human thing properly. The worst part? When I was asked how I was doing, I just smiled and say, living the dream. Because how do you tell someone who follows you for inspiration that you're struggling with loneliness? That night in my hotel room, I made a decision. I was either going to figure out how to build real, authentic community, or I was going to die trying. Because living in that level of isolation while pretending that everything was fine, that wasn't living. That was slowly disappearing. What I discovered in my journey out of that darkness wasn't what the self-help books told me. It wasn't about joining more groups or being more outgoing. It was about completely reimagining what community means and how we build it in a world that's designed to keep us apart. So today, I'm going to share 3 uncommon strategies that pulled me out of isolation and helped me to build the kind of community that makes life worth living. These aren't your typical smile more or be a good listener tips. These are radical, countercultural approaches that challenge everything we've been taught about connection. And fair warning, these strategies are going to make you uncomfortable because that's what I love to do on this podcast. Because real community, the kind that actually cures loneliness, requires you to do things that feel risky, vulnerable, and completely contrary to how we've been trained to protect ourselves. But if you're tired of feeling alone in a world of 8 billion people with a B, and you're sick of surface level connections that leave you emptier than before, then buckle up, fam. We're about to flip the script on loneliness. For the first strategy, I need you to understand something that's going to sound completely backward. The fastest way to build community is not by helping others. It's by asking for help yourself. I know, this is super weird, so stick with me on this. Everything you've been taught says the opposite. Be self-sufficient, don't burden others, handle your business, figure it out yourself. But that mindset is exactly what's keeping you lonely. Here's what no one talks about when it comes to human connection. People don't bond with you when you help them nearly as much as they bond with you when they help you. Psychologists call this the Benjamin Franklin effect, but I call it the secret sauce of community building. Let me tell you how I discovered this. So after learning about the Benjamin Franklin effect, I started an experiment. For 30 days, I forced myself to ask one favor every single day from someone I wanted to connect with. Not huge favors, small, manageable stuff that gave people the opportunity to show up for me. For example, I'm doing this from memory. So day one, I asked my former neighbor to borrow a screwdriver, even though I already had 3 in my garage. Another day, I asked a colleague to review a paragraph of my writing, even though I didn't really need the feedback. Another day, I asked a casual acquaintance for restaurant recommendations in their city, even though I could have easily figured it out by using Google. Another day, I asked someone I admired professionally if they could spare 15 minutes to give me career advice on a specific challenge. Here's what's so cool about this. Every single person I asked for help became more invested in our relationship. The neighbor who lent me the screwdriver started checking on me regularly. The colleague became a trusted friend who now calls me for advice. The acquaintance invited me to dinner when I visited their city. Why? Because when you ask someone for help, you're giving them a gift, the gift of feeling needed, valued, and capable. You're basically saying, I see you as someone with something valuable to offer. That's powerful currency in a world where most people feel invisible and useless. So here is the first kindness strategy of the episode, the 3-layer ask. Now, here's how to become a professional asker without being a burden. So level 1, it's the micro ask. Start with tiny requests that take less than 5 minutes. Hey, can you recommend a podcast? Or what's your favorite coffee shop in the area? Or how do you handle difficult emails? These asks are so small that saying yes feels effortless, but they create a connection point. Layer 2, the knowledge ask. When someone has said yes to a micro ask, graduate to a knowledge request. Hey, you're really good at Excel. Could you show me how you did that pivot table? Or you always seem so calm in meetings. What's your secret? People love sharing their expertise. It makes them feel smart and valued. Layer 3, the vulnerability ask. This is where real community gets built. After establishing the pattern of asking and receiving, share something that you're genuinely struggling with. I'm having a hard time with my teenager. You've been through this before. Any advice? Or I'm feeling overwhelmed at work. Have you experienced this before? If so, how do you navigate through this? But here's the crucial part that almost everyone gets wrong. You have to receive help gracefully. No minimizing. Oh, it was nothing. No immediate reciprocation. Now let me help you. No deflecting. Just genuine gratitude and follow-up. When that neighbor lent me the screwdriver, I returned it the next day with a thank you note. When the colleague reviewed my writing, I sent them a message telling them what specific feedback made the biggest difference. When someone gives me career advice, I follow up weeks later to tell them how I implemented it. This strategy completely transforms my relationships. Within 6 months, I went from feeling completely isolated to having a network of people who were genuinely invested in my success and well-being. Not because I was helping them, because I was letting them help me. I can hear some of you right now saying, but Shola, I don't want to be needy. Listen, there is a massive difference between being needy and being human. Needy is demanding help without boundaries or reciprocation. Being human is acknowledging that we all need each other and creating opportunities for mutual support. Sadly, the people who die lonely are the ones who never learn to ask for help. Please, for the love of all things kind and positive, do not be one of those people. For the second strategy, we need to talk about why modern life is designed to keep us lonely and how to hack the system. Here's the problem. In traditional societies, connection was built into the structure of life. You saw the same people at the market every week, or at religious gatherings, or at community events. Repetition created familiarity. Familiarity created comfort. Comfort created connection. Now, we can go weeks without seeing the same person twice. We order groceries online, work remotely, and stream entertainment in our homes alone. We've eliminated the unnecessary repeated interactions that actually build community. So here is the uncommon solution. You need to manufacture unnecessary rituals that force repeated connection. This one may sound strange, but stick with me on this. And this also happens to be the second kindness strategy of the episode, the unnecessary ritual framework. Here's how to create rituals that build real community. First, pick your anchor. Choose something unnecessary but enjoyable that can happen regularly. Not a book club where people have to read, because that's actual work. Not a networking event, because that's transactional. Something purely for the sake of gathering. Here are some examples of some unnecessary rituals that I've heard of. Coffee and complaints. So every Friday at 7 a.m., same coffee shop, and anyone can show up and complain about anything for exactly 5 minutes while others listen. Or terrible movie night. First Thursday of every month, watch the worst movie you can find and laugh about it together. Or walk and talk. Every Sunday at 3 p.m., same route, no agenda, just whoever shows up walks together. After you decide on your anchor, the second thing you need to do is choose your sacred rules. The ritual needs to have 3 non-negotiable rules. 1, it happens regardless of who shows up, even if it's just you. 2, it's always at the same place, at the same time. And 3, there's no productive outcome that's required. From what I've seen, every social group that has grown into something awesome has followed some variation of these 3 sacred rules. And the third thing you need to do is play the long game. Here's what most people don't understand about rituals. They feel stupid and pointless for a hot minute before the world catches on. You'll want to quit. You'll think it's not working, but something magical happens if you stick with it. People start protecting the ritual. They schedule other things around it. They bring friends. It becomes sacred. And that is the power of unnecessary rituals. They create a container for connection that doesn't depend on anyone's mood, productivity, or social skills. The ritual holds space for the community to grow. But here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. You have to keep showing up even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it, because the ritual isn't about you. It's about creating a reliable space for the community to exist. And in full transparency, I'm recording this particular section of this episode for me. Yes, for me, because I've been kicking around the idea of creating my own unnecessary ritual around kindness for a while now. And I just laid out exactly how I'm going to stick with it. Stay tuned and watch this space, my friend. More to come. Hey, fellow kindness extremists, it's me, Shola. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, if you're mowing what I'm growing, if you're smelling what I'm stepping in. Okay, I'll stop. If you're enjoying what you're listening to so far, I would love it if you would take a moment to hit the subscribe button and leave a rating and a review. Those incredibly kind acts go so far in helping me to reach as many people as possible who will join the movement to actively create a kinder world. I appreciate you so much, my friend. Okay, let's get back to the episode. For the third strategy, we need to get real. Most of us are so busy performing fine, air quotes, that we've forgotten how to be real. And that performance is keeping us lonely. We've created a culture where everyone's highlighting their wins on LinkedIn, posting their best moments on Instagram, and answering, "How are you?" with "great," even though we're dying inside. We're all performing wellness for each other while secretly drowning. And here's the uncomfortable truth that we gotta lean into right now. You cannot build real community while wearing a mask. Full stop. The connections you make while pretending to be okay are as fake as the performance itself. This hit me hard when I ran into an old colleague at the grocery store. We did the usual dance, "How are you? Great. You? Fantastic." And as we were walking away, he turned back and said, "You know what? Actually, I'm not great. My marriage is falling apart and I don't know what to do." We ended up talking in the cereal aisle for like an hour. At the end, he said something that haunts me. This is the first real conversation that I had in months. Everyone else gets the performance. How sad is that? So for the third kind of strategy of the episode, we need to practice something that I call aggressive transparency, the radical act of telling the truth about your life, especially the messy parts. To be clear, and I gotta be clear about this isn't about trauma dumping or oversharing with strangers, because that's weird. It's about strategically dismantling the performance that keeps us isolated. There are 3 parts to this. First is the 70-30 rule. Share 70% wins and 30% struggles. This ratio, I found, keeps you from becoming the person who everyone avoids, all problems, or the person who no one can relate to, all perfection. But that 30% of struggle, that's where the connection lives. When someone asks you, "How you doing?" Try this. "Actually, I'm navigating something challenging right now. Work is going well, but I'm struggling with X," whatever X is for you. Watch how the entire energy of the conversation changes. Second is the specificity principle. Vague struggles create anxiety. Specific struggles create connection. Don't say, "Life is hard." Say, "Look, I'm having a hard time finding the energy to cook dinner after work, so I've been eating cereal for dinner 3 nights this week." That specificity gives people something to connect to. Suddenly, you got 5 people sharing their cereal for dinner stories, and you realize that you're not uniquely broken, you're actually human. And the third is the go first advantage. In any group, be the first to share something real. It's terrifying. This one's scary, but it changes everything. I was at a professional dinner where everyone was doing the achievement parade, the biggest deal, latest promotion, humble bragging Olympics. When it was my turn, I said, honestly, business is good, but I've been struggling with imposter syndrome lately. Sometimes I feel like everyone's going to figure out that I have no idea what I'm doing. The table went quiet for a moment. Then a high achieving executive at the table exhaled and said, oh, thank God someone said it. I feel like that every single day. The entire dinner transformed. We went from performing success to discussing real challenges, real fears, real life. Most importantly, when someone shares something real with you, don't minimize it. Don't immediately share your own story, and definitely don't try to fix it. Try this instead. Thank you for trusting me with that. How can I support you? Those 8 words have created more deep connections in my life than any other phrase. And also, be warned, aggressive transparency will cost you some relationships. The people who need you to perform the whole fine act will eventually disappear. And good riddance. Those weren't real relationships anyway. They were mutual performance agreements, and they were keeping you lonely. The people who stay, the ones who see your real life and move closer instead of backing away, those are your people, and that is where you find your community. All right, my friend, let's land this plane. We've covered 3 uncommon strategies for building real community in our disconnected world, and I need you to understand something. These aren't just nice ideas to think about. These are survival strategies for your soul. First, become a professional asker. Stop trying to be everyone's hero and start letting people be yours. Use the 3-layer ask system to create opportunities for others to invest in your life. Remember, people bond with those they help more than those that help them. Your vulnerability isn't a burden, it's a bridge. Every time you ask for help, you're giving someone the gift of feeling needed in a world that makes most of us feel disposable. Second, create unnecessary rituals. Stop waiting for community to happen organically in a world designed for isolation. Build repeated, predictable gatherings that exist purely for connection. Your ritual might feel pointless at first, but it will become the architecture that holds your community together. Those unnecessary moments, they become the most necessary part of people's weeks. And third, practice aggressive transparency. Stop performing fine, air quotes again, and start sharing the truth about your life, the 70% that's working and the 30% that's not. Be the one who goes first and makes it safe for others to be real. Your honesty isn't too much. It's the exact medicine that a performative culture needs. When you stop performing, you give others permission to stop performing too. Now, I know what you're thinking. Shola, this sounds risky. What if I ask for help and people say no? What if I create a ritual and no one shows up? What if I'm transparent and people judge me? Here is my honest response. If you're already lonely, then what exactly are you risking? The life you're living now, the one where you're surrounded by people but feel completely alone, that's not safety. That's a slow death. These strategies might feel risky, but staying lonely? That is the real danger. Let me tell you what happened when I fully committed to these strategies. Remember that conference where I hid in the bathroom stall? 2 years later, I was at the same conference, but this time I had a crew. People who knew my struggles, people who showed up for my unnecessary rituals, people who I could ask for help without shame. When I walked into that conference dinner, instead of feeling like I was behind bulletproof glass, I felt like I was coming home. Not because anything about the conference had changed, but because I had changed. Because I learned how to let people in. That's the paradox of community. We connect through our humanity, not our perfection. And here's why this is so hard. There's a unique challenge of building community in the digital age. We are the first generation trying to create real human connection in a world of screens, algorithms, and endless distractions. We're trying to create real community while social media tells us that everyone else has it all figured out. While hustle culture tells us that we don't have time for relationships. While consumer culture tells us that we can buy our way out of loneliness. We can't. The only way out of loneliness is through the messy, inefficient, uncomfortable work of real human connection. So here's your homework. And this week, it's non-negotiable. This week, I want you to pick one of these 3 strategies and commit to it for 30 days. 1, ask for one small favor every day from someone you want to connect with. 2, create one unnecessary ritual and show up for 4 weeks straight, even if you're alone. Or 3, share one real struggle in a conversation where you normally just say, I'm fine. Pick one, just one. Pick the one that scares you the least or scares you the most. I don't care. Just pick one and start. Here is the crucial part of this. You have to commit to the full 30 days, especially when it feels like it's not working. Because let's be real, somewhere around day 10, your brain's going to tell you that this is stupid. Around day 15, you're going to want to quit. But if you push through to day 30, I believe that's when the magic is going to happen. That's when connections start to form, when rituals start to matter, when transparency starts to feel like freedom instead of fear. If nothing else, remember this: loneliness isn't going to solve itself. The community fairy isn't going to sprinkle connection dust on your life while you sleep. You have to build it one awkward, vulnerable, unnecessary interaction at a time. The world wants you to stay lonely. Why? Because lonely people buy more stuff, scroll more ads, and don't challenge systems. But every time you ask for help, every time you show up for an unnecessary ritual, every time you tell the truth about your life, you're committing an act of rebellion against a culture that is thrilled to keep you isolated. You're not just building community, you're proving that human connection is still possible in a disconnected world. And if you're still sitting there thinking, but Shola, I tried before and failed. People have let me down. I've been hurt. God, I hear you. I feel you so deeply. I've been there. But here's the thing. The walls we build to protect ourselves from being hurt are the same walls that keep community out. You can't selectively numb. If you want to wall off the pain, you're going to wall off connection too. Yes, building real community means you might get hurt. People might say no when you ask for help. Your ritual might have weeks where you're alone. Your transparency might make some people uncomfortable. But the alternative, staying safe and lonely, that's guaranteed suffering. At least with these strategies, you're suffering in the direction of connection. And one last thing, and this is important, you don't need 100 friends. You don't need to be popular. You don't need a massive social circle. You need 3 to 5 people who really know you and love you anyway. That's it. 3 to 5 people who you can ask for help, who will show for your rituals, who you can be transparent with. If these strategies help you to find even one of those people, that would be worth every uncomfortable moment they're going to be putting into practice going forward. This is your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa. And you now know that kindness can't be weak because you just experienced the strength of the Kindness Extremist podcast. Until next time, my friend, the journey to a kinder world continues. Thank you for listening to the Kindness Extremist podcast. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And I have one favor to ask. If you could kindly hit the subscribe button, leave a rating and a review, not only would that be incredibly kind, but by doing so, you're actively playing a role in growing this movement and ideally getting us one step closer to creating a kinder world. I hope to see you next week for another episode of the Kindness Extremist podcast. Bye for now.